What's going on, people? Welcome back to Mandem Football. It's your boy Demeachnyc here. Follow me on Instagram at Demeachnyc. Follow me on Twitter at Mandem_football. And like, comment, and subscribe on the videos today. And so to really just jump off with the new year, I have to make a video on obviously the biggest club in the Premier League and the biggest club in England and one of the most decorated clubs in all of football. It is the big one, Manchester United, who are currently in 15th in the Premier League. And there's been a lot of talk about what's wrong with Man U, how do they get better, what are the issues. And I'm hearing a lot of stuff from different pundits, different channels, from the United Stand, the United View, DR Sports. I'm hearing it from Gary Neville, Roy Keane on Sky Sports or the Overlap. I'm hearing it from all over the place. And the bottom line is just like, to me, I think really and truly Manchester United are just like, they have a disease. Like, Manchester United have a disease, like an underlying rotten disease that is just like, it's almost as if there's been so many surgeries to really like try to bring this team back to like fully healthy, but it almost just gets like worse and worse and worse. It's like putting a band-aid on a wound and healing that wound until it opens up again out of nowhere. Like, there's nothing really you can do to really like solve the problem. But the thing is like, this isn't like I said, this isn't cancer. Like, this isn't anything like to do with health. I'm just making an analogy. But it's a football club. It's a business. Like, things could be done in order for the team to move into their winning ways again. There's just a bunch of things that need to be changed at Manchester United. And the overall arching thing for me is just the culture at Manchester United. The culture at Manchester United is so dead. It's so dead. Everything that is at that club is just completely rotten to the floor. And honestly, there's so many things that really just make up the culture of a club. You know, you could think of the fan base, you can think of the financial, you can think the financial resources that's there. You think of the players that play for the club. You think of the manager and the coaching staff that's at the club. You think of the sporting director or the head executives at the club. You think of the stadium itself at the club. You think of really and truly everything. Like, honestly, everything. The youth academy, everything that makes the environment of the club the club. And Manchester United have basically fallen apart from what made them so great in the first place. Every single thing that was meant to make Manchester United has just completely gone haywire. Like, the first things first. Let me just start off with the players at Manchester United. I made a list down here on my phone to really get into this because, from an outsider's perspective, you would expect, Manchester United to be like a phenomenal club. Growing up, if you're from the 2000s, the early 1990s, or whatever era of football, you always affiliated with Manchester United as being at the top and being elite year after year, decade after decade. But the issue is that, like, if I looking at the players now, that they had players from Eric Cantona to David Beckham to Gary Neville to Roy Keane to Brian Robson, from all the way back from way back in the day, like Dennis Law and George Best and Sir Bobby Charlton and all these guys. And if we go into the 2000s now, Rio Ferdinand, Wayne Rooney, Jaap Stam, Vidic, Dwight York, Andy Cole, all these players that's played for Manchester United that would die for the badge, right? You don't think about the wages that they earned. You don't think about what they how much money they were getting each week. It wasn't about that. It was about like how it felt to them to play for Manchester United. So when I look at the players now, and I look at guys like, Lissandro Martinez, and, with all due respect, there's only a few players at Manchester United that I keep. If I have to say those players, I'd say keep Garnacho, keep Mazraoui, keep Rasmus Højlund, but he's not elite. So I think he at best is a squad player, or he's a subpar elite individual. Kobe Mainu, I don't know if I said Kobe Mainu's name already, but definitely keep Kobe Mainu. And I mean, there's not many players. Like there's more. Oh, Amad Diallo. There's more players to get rid of than to keep. If I'm looking at players that they need to get rid of, I'm thinking about a whole load of players. Whole load. I'm not even gonna beat around the bush. You got to get rid of. Um, you got to get rid of Harry Maguire. You got to get rid of Luke Shaw. You got to get rid of. I don't. I can't even. There's so many players to choose from. You got to get rid of. I don't know if Amrabat's still there, but if Amrabat is there, you need to get rid of him quick. Casemiro, Christian Eriksen. These guys need to go. These guys need to go. These are guys from the past era of football. We're talking like the mid 2010s players. Christian Eriksen peaked when he was at Spurs. Casemiro peaked when he was at Real Madrid. You know, we're talking about guys that play the game that's won World Cups, but their time is gone. Their time is past. There's no way you can keep a midfielder Casemiro, a midfielder Christian Eriksen. Mason Mount, as much as I think Mason Mount has talent, he needs to go. You know, I love Marcus Rashford, and I'll say this like for as long as he plays. This guy has world class talent. I think he's more talented than many players in his same position. I think he has world class talent. I really do. But he does not have a world class mentality, and he lacks, you know, what makes a player a hardworking player to begin with. He would not succeed at certain clubs nowadays for the sheer fact that you have to come back on defense, you have to press, you have to do all these things, you have to work double the amount that he's supposed to. And if he doesn't want to do it, then respectively he needs to go. These guys need to all go, bro. You know, I'm gonna say it again. The guys that I genuinely think need to leave Manchester United. Luke Shaw needs to go. Harry Maguire needs to go. Marcus Rashford needs to go. Christian Eriksen needs to go. Casemiro needs to go. Um, is there anybody else? Marcus Rashford, if I said his name already, yeah, Marcus Rashford. Uh, Martial, if he's still there, he needs to go. Uh, there's so many players, and listen, Manchester United, they got good players there too. All these players that I said are not bad players. Matter of fact, you could probably get the best out of them at certain points in the season if Ruben Amorim plays the cards right. But no, these are guys that listen, like their time is past. They need to go somewhere else. Like Mazraoui, I think is good. I think Amal Diallo is good. I think Kobe Mainu is great. I think Garnacho is good. I think Rasmus Hoyland, when he works hard and he's on it, he's good. I'm still iffy about Joshua Xerxes, although whatever happened to him a few days ago at Ruben Amorim, him getting hooked at 30 minutes is a disgrace. I'll get into him in a second. Uh, I mean, Andre Onana, I don't know what's going on with Andre Onana. His head is somewhere else to begin with when in goal. Sometimes he's amazing in goal, and sometimes he's just pathetic in goal. Lenny Yoro should stay. Yeah, Yagate should stay. They just signed him. Mateus Delit, I don't know if it's the environment. I think it really is, but it seems like he just made the wrong decision to go to Manchester United. And the fact that he went there for the sake of Eric Ten Hag, who's now been bounced by Manchester United, makes so much more sense to me as to why he's not playing well. So, you know, for me, the players just aren't good enough to play for Manchester United. There's more not good enough players than there are good enough. And when we think of good enough players for Man U, how good are these players? Are they elite? No. So, like, if Manchester United even expect to get to winning ways, and I'm not just talking about the Carabao or the FA or anything like that. I just mean like genuine and like dynasty team, like a dynasty team, the old Manchester United of back in the day. You have to somehow get rid of these players and sign elite top level players that would want to come and play for Manchester United. You guys have the money, so just get the players. Number two, the coach. I mean, let's be real. Like I will say this. I think Ruben Amorim is a good coach. You know, I've seen what he's done at Sporting, and I think he's a top level coach. But man, he has so much he needs to deal with right now. He has so much he needs to do. It's crazy. It's crazy. He's gonna have to put on his seatbelt, and he's gonna have to go through this roller coaster of a season, because I look at this team with Ruben Amorim, and I'm thinking, listen, I like the tactics and what he's doing, but it's flawed. The tactics are flawed. Sometimes he wants to play a 3-4-3, or he wants to play three at the back. Harry Maguire, dead center, as a center back, which I think is a good decision. I think it's great. It gets the best out of Harry Maguire. But there's just certain tweaks and, details that's there in the system that you look and you just go, no, mate, that's just not going to work. That's not going to work. Because number one, the players that are playing in those positions are not good enough to actually execute the blueprint to begin with. And number two, your tactics that you have set out just aren't going to break down teams like Liverpool, who they have to play this weekend. You're not going to break down Arsenal. You're not going to break down, top level sides. Although they beat Manchester City 2-1, that has a lot to do with Manchester City as opposed to Manchester United. And there's so many things that are just wrong with Ruben Amorim's tactics at certain points. So I just think Ruben Amorim, is he the best coach for Manchester United right now? I'd say so. But is he the coach that's going to get them back to winning ways? Who knows? And let's not even talk about Ruben Amorim. I want to go all the way back to after Fergie left. I mean, the managers that were at Manchester United: Van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Ralph Ragnick, Brian Moyes, Ruben Amorim right now, Eric Ten Hag. There's so many coaches at Manchester United. All of them more or less failed to stay there for the long term and really get seemable success at Manchester United. The only managers that you can really say that have succeeded at Manchester United in terms of what they've won is Jose Mourinho and arguably Eric Ten Hag. But Eric Ten Hag is probably the biggest reason as to why they're in this mess in the first place. Other than that, they've won nothing. I mean, not won nothing, but they really haven't done much for you to even say, oh yeah, Manchester United is back. No, because the truth of the matter is that I have for Manchester United is, after Fergie left, and I understand, Fergie is the most decorated manager in the Premier League history and the most decorated manager of all of football that's ever played or ever coached. It's hard to get rid of a guy like Fergie, absolutely, from your football club. But you would. But my question is, did Manchester United plan for after Fergie? Did they actually plan for when Fergie was going to leave? Did they plan that, okay, Fergie's leaving this season? What's the project looking like after Fergie? How do we keep the success of what we had with Fergie, and how do we continue with that? I don't think Manchester United as a football club have even thought about that. And it's so evident to me because everything that seemed like was clicking with Man U, which was the players, the coaching staff, the board, all these things, maybe it was kept under the rug with Fergie, right? Maybe it was kept under the rug and Fergie just got the best of his team that was there once he left. But for me, it's listen, you got to plan for the long term when Fergie's gone. You bring in Van Gaal or you bring in Brian Moyes, or David Moyes, what in the world do you expect is going to happen if you don't have Fergie? You got to plan for these things. And I go all the way back to 2013 because that's when he left. And ever since then, they've just been in an everlasting cycle of getting back to the days when Fergie was there. And it's unbelievable to me. The third thing, the board, I think, honestly, the board at Manchester United is just shocking. It really is. It's a nightmare. You can just see it. It's an absolute nightmare. Ineos, I think, messed up. I think they messed up big time. They messed up big time with keeping Eric Ten Hag after the FA Cup. He's the whole reason why Manchester United are in this mess to begin with. They bought how many millions of dollars on players And I mean, look where they are now. Look where they are. They're in 15th place. You kept Eric Ten Hag. I thought the best decision was, getting rid of him and getting a new manager up until the FA Cup final because it seemed like he was going to go right when they won, and that would have been the perfect ending to up and down season or up and down term with Eric Ten Hag, right? You won them the FA Cup, cool. You won them the Carabao Cup, cool, right? But nothing withstanding for you to actually be confident that Manchester United are going to go back to the winning ways and be a dynasty once again. But no, you kept them there. You kept them there, and now you got them losing 3-0 to Tottenham Hotspur at Old Trafford. You got them losing 3-0 to Liverpool at Old Trafford. You got them, losing game after game, you know, red cards by Bruno Fernandes all over the place, and then you get rid of him. And now they're trying to cope with Ruben Amorim. That's what it looks like to me. And I think Ruben Amorim might even get sacked this season if things really don't go their way further on to the season because it's that bad. So I just think Ineos, like, they're a bunch of frauds, and I've been hearing a lot of fraud watch by many other YouTubers, and I think they're on fraud watch, and it's absolutely deservingly so. Another thing, the fourth thing for me, which is just mind blowing to me. Old Trafford. Now, I mean Old Trafford, the stadium. How many times are we going to be hearing that there's going to be a leak? Ever since last season against Arsenal, where it was 1-0, they lost. You just see the rain pouring down from the ceiling all the way onto the bleachers and onto the seats in Old Trafford. The theater of dreams looking like the theater of nightmares or the theater of Friday the 13th. Like, it's crazy. Like, staying at Old Trafford for the night is like Five Nights at Freddy's. Honestly, like, it's leaking everywhere. It's leaking in the dressing rooms. It's leaking in the press conferences. We just saw Ruben Amorim having a press conference, and you just see the ceiling leaking. He even points up to it, right? Like, it's leaking in the press conferences. It's leaking in the stadium itself, like with the stands and everything. You see it coming down. It's leaking in the it's leaking just everywhere. It really is. And the biggest thing that I'm seeing now is that there's a rat infestation, or that there's a mouse or a mice infestation at Old Trafford. I mean, bro, what are you telling me right now? You're telling me that Manchester United are struggling with their players. Their board is on fraud watch. Their manager is trying to get this team together. And the worst thing about it is that there's a mouse infestation or a mice infestation at Old Trafford. Yo, I mean, seriously, like, this club is just rotten to the core. And though there's so many several things that you can look at, the Marcus Rashford saga right now, one week Ruben Amorim has him doesn't have him in the squad along with Garnacho because these guys aren't doing what he's telling them to do, which I think shows a lot of integrity by the manager. But then the next week you have him in the squad. You know, next week you have him in the squad, and then before that, even just before that, you hear that Marcus Rashford's thinking of going somewhere else. Bred and born, raised Marcus Rashford at Manchester United, saying that he is thinking of a new challenge. That is heartbreaking for Manchester United fans. And it also kind of hurts me because I like Marcus Rashford a lot. And I think he could have been something really special at Manchester United. It's just a matter of, you have to understand, he's been through so many managers over the course of his career. And now that he's 27 years old, having to deal with Ruben Amorim, who's just come into the club and is telling him that, you know what, I don't think you should be playing for this club. You're not doing what I'm telling you to do. No manager's ever told him that. So I just think it's just beyond me what's going on with Manchester United and Marcus Rashford and everything. I'm hearing a lot of things about Bruno Fernandes. Listen, I have a very up and down type of feeling about Bruno Fernandes. But, to say overall he's the captain of Manchester United, to me, just tells you a lot about Manchester United in general. So, uh, those red cards this season as a captain of Manchester United, if you're not Roy Keane and you're getting red cards for whatever reason, and you're the captain of Manchester United, need to hand in the captain armband. The only captain that can get away with that in the Premier League consistently are two guys that we could talk about, which is Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira, because they were leaders on the pitch and they got red card week in and week out, but they died for their teams. They died for their badges. Not this Bruno Fernandes, nonsense that we're seeing where he puts in a bad foot and he gets a red card and it's there's nothing you can change. It's a red card. There's nothing that you can say it's not. So, to say he's the leader, he's a captain, he's a guy to look forward to at Manchester United is just crazy. It's just beyond me. And I think all of that just makes up the culture of Manchester United, the environment of Manchester United, the atmosphere at this, once prestigious club, and they still are. But at the moment, there's so many things that are going wrong, and there's so many things and so many angles that need to be covered and need to be done with Man U. And I think the really the conclusion of it is that they don't have anything in the long term to look at. There's nothing. They don't have a long term plan, and I can just tell just by looking at the club. I can tell just by listening to Ruben Amorim and just hearing what's going on. Like it's just a disaster. There really is a disaster, and there's so many things that could be done. I think just having like a long-term plan for the future, I think is something that they definitely need to do and to really course over the storm that's happening right now in Manchester United. But other than that, like they are long from, the promised land. But, if you just, I guess, trust the process with Amarim and, pay attention to what he's doing and just back him, then I guess we can see turnover with Manchester United. But other than that, I really don't see it right now, and that's really what I think of Manchester United as a football club. But that was a long one. Don't forget to subscribe to the video, guys. Yeah, have a good one. Peace.